everything's gonna happen. What about it's all coming together?
Oh, darn it.
All coming together.
Gotta do all the edits live now.
Okay, that's fine.
How do you spell coming?
I'm sorry, what? Stop that!
Alex?
What?
We're live.
Oh, what the heck? Why did you do that? They're alive!
That was an epic freakout. Wow.
We're asking about titles. Why are we live and we're asking about titles?
Because, you know, we got the cold open. Welcome to the cold open. That's as cold as it gets.
It's very cold in space.
Oh my gosh.
In space, I think even people in space could hear Alex screaming just now.
To be fair, I didn't say anything bad.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting. Why is it having an issue now? Oh.
This is the Player 4
Being
podcast.
friendly to me.
Join us each week as we talk about video games, entertainment, and pop culture, and bring in guests from the Rooster Teeth community. Player 4 has entered the game.
Hello, and welcome to the Player 4 podcast. We have the coldest opens imaginable.
Oh
I'm
my
your host,
God.
Tristan, aka Shagrazier.
Oh, I am Alex, aka Chaos Black 21.
It's gonna be okay.
And I'm Joseph, aka Jay Dunlap. And fun fact, macaroons look like tiny cheeseburgers.
No, macarons look like tiny cheeseburgers. He's gonna die. Our discussion prior to the podcast was about the difference between macaroons and macarons. Because people...
Too bad, Tristan. Macaroon, the little tiny hamburgers are the new macaroons.
Little tiny
Oh,
hamburgers.
goodness. I'm not gonna call them macaroons because that's not correct. The macaroons are the coconut ones. The macarons are the not coconut ones. They're the little cheeseburgers.
As Joseph liked to put them, they're coconut and air.
Coconut and air. Yep. Says they're crunchy and awful, according to Joseph.
I mean, if it has coconut in it, of course it's awful.
No.
So
Thank
what
you
are we
very much.
talking about?
Today, Joseph has some excellent news for him and his family, and hopefully the rest of us. And then we'll jump into our discussions about the ongoing games.
Oh, I get to start it.
You do.
Does that mean it's catching up with Joseph?
Kinda. Catching up with Joseph.
Wait, that's Malachi's Meanderings.
Yeah, I couldn't remember what the tune...
Catching up with Joseph.
Oh.
And then I say, I'm feeling here.
I mean, the whole theme song is like, we haven't seen him for a while. It's catching up with Joseph.
I'm feeling here.
I've forgotten everything.
I've got some exciting news. I've been sporadically, being very choosy about who I tell about it because it hasn't really happened yet, but I'm in the process of buying a house. What happened was, so there was a thing called a pandemic, and it became...
I mean, it's still a thing.
Yeah, there's a thing called a pandemic that all it takes is, 2 to 3 weeks of a quarantine to end it, but we're still planning on it being here next year because people don't want to take it seriously. So, it turns out that there's not a lot of people selling houses and not a lot of people buying them. it kind of makes it like a weird version of a buyer's market because people are desperate to sell, but there's not very many choices. So Gina said, "Hey, I was bored. Sometimes at nighttime she's bored and she gets on her phone and looks for stuff. And she said, "Hey, look at this house that I just found, and it's like right across the street from where I teach. Not the building, but the campus."
Nice.
And I was like, "Oh, that looks really good." So she said, "Yeah, I already contacted them to get a tour." I was like, oh, "Okay, cool." So we did the tour and we kind of liked it. And then we got a tour of a different one that was significantly cheaper, and we liked the layout, but nothing else about it. There was all kinds of problems with it.
Mm.
So we continued to pursue the other one. I contacted a friend who was a real estate agent that I actually went to college with in music, and we met with her, and she said, "Here, let me look up like what's available right now." Oh, turns out the two things in your price range are the two things you've already looked at. And we were like, "Oh, well, that's interesting." So we continued to pursue the one that we were wanting. Well, it ended up being kind of a quick process. We lowballed them, and they said, "Give us a little bit more," and then we signed a contract with them. And we're at a point where, pending the inspection and the survey, we're going to close. And we know after the inspection, there's going to be a few things that need to get fixed. So once that happens, it'll be my house, and it'll
Nice.
be interesting. The mortgage is not going to be that much more than rent in the first place, so that's a good thing. And also, it gets to be ours. The only weird thing is there's no hallway. Now
Yeah. That's when you sent the layout to us. That's what I was commenting on with Sam. We were looking at it like, this is a really weird layout.
Yeah, it was disproportionate, but pretty representative. I
Hmm.
just did it on MS Paint and sent it to the Discord. And yeah, so there's no hallway, and the only reason that matters is, well, two things. They took the square footage of the hallway and spread it out among all the other rooms. So those rooms are kind of bigger, but it didn't really increase the wall space. It actually decreased the wall space because of the removal of the hallway,
Yeah.
and that affects like bookshelves and furniture and stuff. And then also the cats will not have a runway to sprint across and chase each other. And there's three of them, and two of them are huge. So that means they're going to be doing figure eights around the house,
Yep.
because there's like this room connects to these two rooms, and these two rooms connect to this room, and this room connects over here. So they're just going to be sprinting through living spaces and bedrooms constantly, because two of the bedrooms have two doors. So it's an interesting thing. But as I said, it's like right across a somewhat, but not that, because I live in a small town, busy road from the opposite end of campus from where I teach. So we're talking maybe a 5-minute walk, if that, to work, which right now I'm a 4-minute drive from work. So I'll take it. That's my update about
Really,
what's
it's not
been
bad
going
because
on.
now you can just walk, though.
Yeah, anytime I want to.
It changed
And
my
the only
life.
thing is,
Go ahead.
what? The only thing is that um, where I am right now, I drive through downtown ish
Mhm.
to get to work. So, and it's again a small town. That means I can drive past my favorite taco place on the way to work, called Tacos Ocompa, where I am legit addicted to their carne asada street tacos. But now I have to admit, it's not something I do on the way to work. It's something I'm going to go out of my way for.
I mean, it was pretty life-changing when I moved into a location where I didn't have to drive to work anymore. It means that I don't do the stops on the way in or out for food, but I'm also now in the heart of the city, so if I'm hungry for something, I can actually just pop on Grubhub and have it delivered to my door. So that hasn't really... The things that it has affected that I would call maybe negatively is that, the places like the chain restaurants that I used to like aren't available around here because it's mostly, in this part of the city especially, it's mostly like small family run businesses and such, and there's just a ton of them. or chain, like lesser known chains. So like you couldn't get a McDonald's or a Wendy's around here. They don't exist. In this part of the city. Yeah, it's interesting. They just don't exist. But we've got, like, better things. So if you want a burger, we've got, like, the Boston Burger Company, which is, like, you go there for a burger. Like, you get a massive meal of a burger from there.
So that makes me think
all
of
the
Taps,
burger.
which is a Texas thing.
But, you know, I can walk to work and home, or I can take the train. It got to the point where last month I got rid of my car.
Nice.
I don't have the car anymore. I'm not paying the insurance on it anymore. I don't have to move it from one side of the street to the other every few weeks for the street cleaning. I don't have to worry about it anymore.
Wow, interesting.
Carefree.
It's certainly cheaper because it was like $100 a month for the insurance, and then when I was using it actively, you know, you were talking like $300 a month in gas. So, you know.
Now you get free exercise.
Yeah, now I get free exercise instead. Well, or I would if we weren't in the middle of a pandemic.
Right. Yeah, my exercise went bye-bye because I kept saying, like, we were recording some podcasts where I was walking in the park. I'm like, you know, it hasn't really been hit here. You know, it's May. It should have been over in April anyway. And I'm like, it's not that bad here. And then suddenly, like, everyone collectively decided, why don't we just all get COVID? So now we're at 9% of the population of where I live has COVID. So I haven't been to the park since, and that was about 2 months ago. So no exercise.
Yeah, no. I mean, people around where I am are pretty good about masking. Like, I would say a 95% of people I see on the street are, you know, properly distancing and masking, which is nice. But, you know, it would be nice if we could get to a point where we didn't need that anymore. If we could get a vaccine, you know, it's just taking time, you know?
Oh, but Russia has a vaccine now.
I mean, possibly.
I don't really trust any of that.
I wouldn't trust anything I heard coming out of there.
No.
You know, if they really had one, everyone would be jumping on it.
Mm-hmm.
Wait until you hear about France or... Yeah, wait till you hear about, like, France or England having a cure, and then you'll know.
Yeah, but even then, like, we wouldn't have it until, like, probably early next year, because at the earliest, because they still have to go through so many trials.
Mm-hmm. And that's not a bad thing. In any event, yeah, our moving about and our exercising has definitely tanked lately.
I mean, I just go to the gym that is my work. And
I just become a big fat doughboy slob in my house. I think the last time I left my apartment building, like even walked out in the sun, was over a week ago.
Oh my gosh, you must be so pale.
Because I'm not usually.
Tristan, you gotta get some sun.
I'm looking at our pictures here, and while they're a few years old, they're still pretty accurate.
You gotta get what is it? Is it vitamin D that comes from the sun?
Vitamin D is produced by your body when you expose yourself to the sun.
Yeah, you gotta get some of that.
I mean, I get D milk. I get milk with the D.
D milk.
Joseph, aren't you glad you're friends with us? So how's Valinaria going?
You go first.
Me first? Okay. Well, Everybody Loves Riken just had its episode 60. The big 6-0.
Yeah.
I get excited every time we hit another 10. I wanted to to go into a little depth at the end of the episode rather than the beginning, so that I could let the players jump into the action, and then after the episode, kind of do some recapping and talking about how far we'd come. I got about 4 sentences into that when everybody was like, okay, I'm signing off now, so that ended pretty quick.
You didn't think that one through.
I was hoping to engage the players in a little chit-chat about how far they'd come, like... I don't know. But in any event, episode 60 itself, I thought went pretty well overall. Sam actually, I usually will go and ask Sam, like, okay, what'd you think of the last, session? I had these concerns about it, but this time he actually initiated and said, hey, I thought last time went really well. So I'm like, cool, I didn't have to ask him. That means it probably did. But it was a very... personal session for the group's rogue, who had a person from his past seek him out, looking for vengeance, as the rogue in his prior life, before he became part of the party, was an assassin for his family and killed a lot of people.
Yeah.
So this was a child of one of his victims.
And I thought it was very nice that the paladin, who was the other longest character in the series, was able to help him out.
Yeah, that made a big difference. That you were in the temple, he couldn't enact the plan he wanted to.
Whew! That was close.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was very good. It was very emotional, and a good thing for Vendar, for his character, the character, to do.
I think it was good for the players as well, because I think that a lot of the really interesting things that Vendar does, he does off-screen, usually in text exchanges with me, and they impact the story, but they always kind of blindside the rest of the players, because he's doing it all sneaky and roguelike. So it was nice to be able to give Vendar the spotlight and let people see that he's a character who's doing things.
That he's changing.
Yeah, I really liked that too. I wanted to highlight the development, coming from being ready to murder an NPC because the NPC wanted to overcharge him for arrows, to an NPC comes out of the blue and demands his life as recompense for crimes committed years earlier, and when he finally accepts the NPC's challenge, still refuses to kill them. Like, that was a lot of personal growth for the character. So I really liked that. I really liked our latest episode.
I was going to say last night, I'm like, yeah, probably like a year or two ago, that kid would just be dead.
Oh, yeah.
Because Vendar would just be like, oh, okay, dead.
Yeah. Yeah, that's probably very true. But I mean, the kid also serves a second purpose, which is to inform the party that their legend is growing, that people have information that they can use to find the party.
But will they find us in the Underdark?
Oh, no. Nobody's going there. Are you kidding? You guys are nuts.
It's gonna be so awesome.
Going into the Underdark. All right, so that's the quick update on that, as they dealt with this ghost of Vendar's past, and are now ready to go into the Underdark.
Oh yeah, mind flayers.
And Alex was really excited about it. I hope you're excited about it. It's going to be like non-stop combat. All this role-playing we've been doing for the better part of the last, several months, which was broken up by like 3 combats. Yeah, that's going to be a total reversal.
Well, Riken's probably going to die, but it's going to be so awesome.
It's going to be awesome. So, you got some news about Valinaria now, Joseph?
Yeah.
Yeah, you could say that. We are approaching the end of our introductions, the introductory sessions.
Nice.
We had episode 1 that was Rook and Gaz doing a bit of a buddy cop and being aware of a situation that they were going to need to resolve concerning Traverse Camp and a protection racket. Then we have episode 2, which is introducing Alex and Bree's characters, the Druid and Ranger, and then they're aware of a situation where not only is it bad that there are hunters in the great forest, which the Druid Conclave would totally like murderize them over, but also they're killing for sport, which Alex's character is very upset about. Then we go back in episode 3 to Rook and Gaz, and then that's where Gaz, whatever code name he is for that day, is able to finish the heist and steal the paper that's going to help bring the people to justice that are doing the bad things. Meanwhile, a mysterious bard has been aiding them who they don't know. They don't know this person. And then it ends on a cliffhanger, which is a guy says, "Hey, I need you to help me with this situation where I'm a leader of the camp, but this other leader of the camp is corrupt." So then episode 4 actually helps fill in some of the blanks there by just talking about what the bard has been up to, and it turns out the bard is working for that Mormon and is there like an undercover sort of he's playing his music while observing the town. He's part of the corruption investigation, and that's why he helped Rook and Gaz. So we're at a point in their story where, if I recall correctly, the bard is going to represent the rogue in a trial where the rogue is on trial for stealing the paper, and then the paladin is going to go and bust some heads and uncover the entire corruption scandal that's going on. And then meanwhile, what we just did in episode 5 with the Druid and the Ranger was they found out who was behind the hunting for sport and resolved it in a way I did not expect. Now, I don't really know what I expected. All I knew, this happens a lot, all I knew was what I was going to give them, which is the guy who killed for sport was kind of a clueless idiot who just thought that he was just doing awesome stuff and kept going around saying, what was it, Alex? He killed a 30-something point elk or something.
It was 30, like 38, and then up to 40, then like 44, and then I think he kind of stopped at that point, but I was waiting for him to get to like 50.
50-point buck.
Yeah.
And the other thing he kept doing was like he kept saying he represented the Great Hunt. He was a representative of the Great Hunt, but there was no proof to support that. And of course, I don't think either of the characters had even heard of the Great Hunt, so it didn't even matter. And then he even like got drunk and angered the 2 people that were hunting with him, and they left. There's a father-daughter group that got tired of his shenanigans, so they left like without him even knowing. They just disappeared, and that was something that Alex's druid saw. Then he's just all by himself, so they're like, well, what if we teach you how not to leave dead animals on the ground? What if we teach you how to make jerky, basically? And they said, but besides, not only is it more moral to do so, you can also sell it and you make more money. He's like, you're going to help me make more money? I'm in. Where do I sign up? So they at the end of the session, basically we summarized that they took him out into the wilderness where he's a good hunter, where he hunted, and then they taught him how to utilize the parts of the animal, like skin it and make jerky and that sort of thing. So it was a really interesting thing because they went into it pretty incensed about what was going on, and then just found out all they had to do was just take some time to teach this guy, and then the problem would fix itself.
If Kador was not neutral good. If he started leaning the other way, he probably would have been like made it a lot quicker and be like, yeah, you need to go deep into the Great Forest and find some people, kill something in front of them. You'll be good.
That's the sort of person I used to be in my MMO days. I would give the advice that would get people killed.
Bring them your 50-point buck. They would like to see it.
Because all the druids there would kill him.
52 point.
52 point.
Sorry. I meant 54 point.
So let's see. We had 2 Rook and Gaz sessions. We've had 2 Kador and Acerel sessions, and we've had so far 2 sessions with Fredegar. Now, episode 6 is going to close up the Rook and Gaz storyline with Fredegar as part of the cast.
Mm-hmm.
Then we're going to, in 2 weeks' time, episode 7 is going to start a new little storyline that's going to get the group put together. And that is, if I can swing it, going to be Fredegar, Acerel, and Kador. They're going to do something together that then I'll bring in Rook and Gaz for in the conclusion of that adventure in episode 8.
Okay, wait, so tomorrow is the closing for Rook and Gaz, and then the next week there's nothing, and then we'll be meeting the following week?
Yes, the next week is going to be everyone but Rook and Gaz. And then after that, we will always have the group fully intact unless we do like a split off or branch off episode.
Oh, okay. I noticed that Fredegar didn't show up for the second Kador and Acerel episode, which I thought he was supposed to be in.
There was the intent, but his work required him to put out a fire, essentially.
Mm.
He works for a... I don't want to like give away personal details about the person.
You don't have to, but is it going to be something that we need to worry about?
We could say he works in social work. It's pretty close to what he does.
Mm-hmm.
So he was in a situation where he had to go and mediate a situation.
Mm-hmm.
But it shouldn't happen all the time.
Mm.
And I found a way to resolve the Kador Acerel story without him, and also a way to bring him in and have him start the next adventure with them, so then we can get the group together.
Okay.
And that should be really interesting because what we've been doing up to this point is establishing dynamics between the duos.
Mm-hmm.
And establishing, at least with Rook and Gaz, a little bit about how Fredegar fits into their dynamic. So hopefully that gets us to a point when the group comes together that there are some interpersonal relationships beyond we're in a group together.
Yeah, that would definitely be the goal. I know that right now the Fredegar's position within the Rook and Gaz story is he's just that guy who was already in the town who kind of came and tried to defend them, and so that seems, and I was allowed to name him as my defendant in this court thing, which I couldn't do for Rook. So it's just like, okay, so I'm going to rely on him for that, but we really don't know who he is yet.
Yes, that's what we're going to do tomorrow, is give you a chance to get to know Fredegar, so then you have a bit of a rapport with him moving forward with the campaign. The same thing is what I'm going to do with Acerel and Kador, who I've really enjoyed their role play together. They've got a fun dynamic going on. What we've got with Rook and Gaz is a constant back and forth, and then with Kador and Acerel is a constant fish out of water. Like they have pretty much everything in common, and they're just experiencing the world together. It's a really fun little dynamic.
Mm.
So when we get the group together, like all 5, it's going to be really interesting.
I think that Gaz and Kador are going to be best friends.
Super best friends.
So I'm really having fun with it. I'm glad that I took this approach and get the slow burn. The only thing I don't like is that it's taking this long as a result to get the group together. Once we get the group together, it should be worth it, though. And then people don't have to say, wait, I don't get to play for a week. We'll have everyone together. And if I do a split-off episode, it might just be on a different day.
Mm.
I want to do, like a TV show would do, especially like the real good Avatar-style shows that have an episode of just about one character, that sort of thing. I want to sometimes split off and focus on 1 to 3 characters out of the group
Hmm.
and give them something to do.
I see. I mean, that sounds like something you'll be able to accomplish.
What comes to mind is actually the TV show that they did for How to Train Your Dragon was actually pretty good, and actually in some ways had a lot in common with Avatar
Is
in the
that
way
called
that it
Race to
handled
the Edge or
characters.
something like that?
Well, that was starting at season 3, I want to say.
Hmm.
It's Riders of Berk, Defenders of Berk, and then Race to the Edge. And Race to the Edge is, I think, 3 seasons, and then they moved on to a different title.
Ah.
I only knew because Michael was like huge into dragons starting when he was like 3 years old.
Hmm.
So he's been keeping up with it. I've been making sure he has access to the episodes. What they did, they would, or even early on, they would say, this is an episode about this character. And for example, the one that Kristen Wiig voices, it's I think it's Rough Nut. It could be Tough Nut, but I think it's Rough Nut. Has a whole episode where she's just stuck next to this sick but really powerful dragon, and everyone else is off doing something else, and they can't help her. And she spends the episode actually learning how to be a dragon trainer and actually bond with the dragon.
Hmm.
So that sort of thing, you know. You
Yeah.
can always have little, even a bottle episode would be fun. You know, bottle episodes like in Community. So I'm having a lot of fun with this, and I'm also, just so you guys know, I'm putting a lot of work into this because I have filled up my YouTube queue with videos on world building.
Hmm.
So I'm really gonna be, hopefully it'll start to show as we go through the campaign.
Oh, you mean you've been watching lots of YouTube videos about world building?
Yes, I've got 3
Huh.
channels that have different aspects of it. One isn't for D&D, but it kind of works in tandem with the other ones.
Yeah, I mean, world
Uh,
building's
the
world building.
first one, yeah, the first one's called Alternate History Hub, and it talks about how certain things affect history.
Yeah.
And that goes nicely into one called Stonework, which is he'll talk about a subject that is related to world building, but he'll talk about actual history first and what affected historical progression. Then he'll say, "Here's how you could manifest that in D&D." It's something as simple as what do you name a town is one of the videos,
Hmm.
but there's even more complex topics. And then the third one I've recently discovered is WASD 20, which is more geared towards DMs just doing their DM thing,
Hmm.
which is making maps and making a game fun, how to do combat. And he's got some videos for players as well, things you can try to get more into the game, to bring more to the table, to make combat more interesting, to make role play more interesting. So it's a really good resource for players and DMs. So that's what I've been up to.
Nice. Sounds awesome. I'm hoping that it'll pay dividends and we'll get to have a good game.
Yes, I really am
GG.
looking forward to some of the things that could be happening in the future. I never really set a storyline in stone unless it is like the linchpin of the campaign.
Hmm.
So I just throw things at you, and I've got some interesting things I want to throw at you guys.
Yeah. I have found, if you'll hear my advice, I have found that it works well to create a conflict that can be the focus, but that way the only thing that really matters is to the DM for planning wise is how that conflict affects the world, and then you don't really have to plan anything other than how that conflict is going until the players get there, and they can do whatever they want and interact however they want, and then when they come into contact with that conflict, that's when you start to see, what's the butterfly effect here, and that way you don't have to have a planned storyline so much as here is a thing to deal with, and then the players are really writing the story. At least that's how I've tried to do my game.
I do have some conflicts on the horizon.
Nice.
It'll be really interesting. It's a pivotal historical period that you are currently role playing in. I'll just say that.
Yes. It will be most entertaining. and
Mhm.
I'm
interesting.
also going to be giving you guys a lot of chances to sort of build the world in some areas, so that'll be fun as well.
Mm.
Maybe you'll end up with that statue of your character after all.
Under one arm, I want a platypus, and in my outstretched hand, I want a mug of ale.
Well, that means that I have to go on your website and make it something profane.
You're gonna cost me my statue.
We're going to say something that Alex says in cold opens.
Shut up.
Well, I think on that note, it may in fact be time to get the flip out of here.
Hey, that does seem like the time for that.
Mm.
Hashtag good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Goodbye.
So long. Farewell. Auf Wiedersehen. Goodbye.